Chapter 4, The Freedom Struggle of 1857. In this chapter, we will understand and learn what made the Indians start the struggle for the freedom against the Britishers. Struggle before 1857. Local people had to bear ill effects of the British government. When British government ruled the country of India, they made lot of different new changes in terms of rules and policies which completely affected and badly affected the farmers and the common people of the Indian society. What made them affected was the farmers and the common people had to take away loans from the banks in order to pay taxes to the British government. Since they took the loan from the bank, they were unable to pay back the loan and therefore they became bankrupt. In a situation, a person called as Umarchand Naik, he had a strong resistance against the Britishers. He fought very hard against the Britishers to support the common people, and because of that, he was arrested and put to death by the British government. The Britishers also put heavy restrictions on forest resources. Forest resources means all the products that come from the forest. Example, honey, fruits, flowers, roots, wood, all these things the people were involved in, the tribal people, they were unable to pay the heavy taxes to the British government. Indian sepoys' salaries was less as compared to British sepoys. Sepoys means soldiers. The squad, the army that Indian and Britishers had, they had two types of soldiers, Indian also as well as the Britishers also. The Indian soldiers were paid less salaries as compared to the British soldiers, even though both of them did same amount of job. Causes for struggle of 1857. Economic causes. Lot of heavy taxes on industries were put by the British government, which made people to take loan from the banks, and since they did not get any profit from the industries, they had to unable to pay the loan to the bank. That was called as bankrupt, karzbazi. Social causes. Prohibition of sati. Sati was an act that Indian people followed before the Britishers came to India. Now, people of India, illiterate, they did not understand what was right, what was wrong. They practiced various social norms, and one of them was called as sati. Sati is a practice where a husband died, the widow of the husband, the wife of the husband, has to jump into the fire and give her life along with the husband. That means, according to the Indian society, Indian people, a lady who does not have a husband has to die along with him. That was called as sati. This practices, when the Britishers came to India, they realized that Indian people were involved in such type of practices. They tried to stop such type of practices for the good of the people, and which was not acceptable for the Indian people, because they realized that Britishers are now interfering in the social factors of the Indian people. Britishers insisted to have something called as Widow Remarriage Act. This means that the widow should not die along with the husband, rather should marry again. That was called as widow remarriage. So somehow you realize that the Britishers did try to change society of India for the cause of good. Third is political causes. British to take control over many states in India. Now, most of the part of India was now under the control of the Britishers, capturing various states. We have learned in lesson number 2 how they came to the India and they captured various states one after the other. Fourth cause of the struggle was discontent among Indian soldiers. Indian soldiers were paid less salaries. As I told you, the Indian squad of army had two types of soldiers, Indian soldiers and the British soldiers. Both the soldiers did same amount of job. In spite of that, the British sepoys or the British soldiers were paid more salaries as compared to those of the Indian sepoys, Indian soldiers. Fifth is immediate cause. Religious sentiments of the soldiers were hurt because the rifles were made out of fats of cow and pig. Now, the Indian soldiers also had Hindu well as Muslim soldiers. Now, according to the religious terms, they did not accept cow and pig in their religion. And these rifles, which were made to fight in the war or in the battle, consisted of having something called as fats of cow and pig, which the soldiers refused to use in the battle because it hurt their religious sentiment. The feelings of the soldiers were hurt because they were forced to use rifles or the guns which were made out of fats of cow and pig, which would hurt their religion. Scope of the struggle. Leadership of the struggle. Now we have realized that initial stage when the Britishers came to India, there was something called as the Mughals who were ruling some parts of India. At the same time, there were Marathas also. The Marathas realized that Britishers are now entering the country of India and Mughals are not that strong to fight against the Britishers. It was very important for the Marathas to stop the Britishers ruling the country of India. Therefore, Marathas took charge to fight against the Britishers. Among them, the important Indian freedom fighters who thought of fighting against the Britishers were Nanasaheb Peshwa, Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi, and Tatya Tope. Let's summarize what we have learned over here. We have learned that meaning of the freedom struggle. Why there was a freedom struggle? Because as soon as the Britishers started ruling the country of India, it was all chaos. It affected the people of India very bad. Causes of the struggle, economic cause. The Britishers imposed heavy taxes on the people, and because of that, the people of India were unable to pay the heavy taxes. And since they were unable to pay the heavy taxes, they took loan from the banks, and ultimately they were unable to pay the loans to the Indian British government. Political cause. Britishers were now trying to conquer most of the states in India, and almost whole of India was under the control of the Britishers. Social cause. The practice of sati was stopped by the Britishers and the practice of widow remarriage was started, which was not acceptable by the Indian society. Immediate cause. The rifles and the guns which were used by the Indian soldiers were made out of fats of cows and pig, which was not acceptable by the Indian sepoys, Indian soldiers, because that would affect their religious sentiments. So, we have learned what and how it was started, the freedom struggle to fight against the Britishers. We'll learn the next lesson in the next video.